So like I remember like there were multiple times where I'd be playing at Hustler and like I would have 90% of my net worth on the table or whatever, like sitting 500K deep, and I had, 550K, I had 50K in the bank account. And I was like, if I dust this 500, like I'm good. Like I can pay rent, like we're good. I'll just go back to I have work. I get my 5K salary, paycheck, whatever in the month. My wife gets her paycheck. We're fine. Like, no big deal.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.
All right, guys, welcome back to Table One Podcast. Host Justin Young, I guess co-host Justin Young, co-host Art Parman, and another very special guest, Nik Airball. Should we use your entire name? I don't know. I don't even know if I know your entire name. Let's just do it so people can Google you in case they don't know Airball.
Nik
Arcot.
Nik Hill, what? Nik Hill Airball?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Well, first things first, I think we have to get this off the, where did the name Airball come from? Like, I think everyone's dying to know.
If you got to ask, you already know. I mean,
Motherfucker. Okay, so sorry, I'm playing online, obviously. So I'm stuck. Otherwise, I would quit. So one day I was playing on Hustler, and back then I was still working at my job at an investment bank, and I went by Nik A because I just didn't want to put my last name out there at that point, and I was just didn't have a hand that day a lot and was bluffing a lot, and the commentator just said the A stands for Airball, and it kind of just stuck.
Oh wow, that's a fantastic nickname. I mean, obviously you embrace it, but like that's fucking great.
yeah, you were knighted.
It worked.
Thanks. Shout out to that commentator. Do you even know who it was?
Yeah, it was DJF.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. Of course it is. Billy, the man of many words, and he knows how to use them.
Exactly.
All right. And just in case you have to like chime in with like some big hands on the app and stuff, what game are you playing right now?
So I'm playing two tables of 125, 250 with a 250 per person ante and a $500 straddle PLO.
Jesus.
I'm glad you could take some time out of your.
I mean, I hope he gave you some run good so you have some good connotation, like more good connotation with us, because I already know you
I'm
see
putting
us
it
as
in
like
very
dollar
bad.
signs.
Let's see here. Yeah, I'm dead. I need a deuce.
You are a deuce. All right.
PLO or Hold'em?
PLO, it's just a shit show. I don't know what I'm doing. All right, I'm quitting because I can't focus on both and I'm dusting it. All right. Anyways,
I'm sure he's gonna be in a great mood. All right. So typically on these podcasts, I'm sure you've seen every one, as all of our guests do. But we like to kind of drag the listeners through like a young Nik Airball, like how you kind of get onto like this fun track of like gambling and poker and degeneracy or whatnot. So obviously you just said you were an investment banker at one point. So like what was like a 18-year-old Airball like how did you get from that to like investment, and like was gambling anywhere involved?
sure. I guess I'll start like before that. So like when I was a kid, like my dad played poker, nothing crazy, like maybe like $1, $2 with his buddies or whatever. Kind of like, just casual bar poker, stuff like that. And they had like a league, and one year he won and got to go play the main event. And like I remember when he came back from that, he had like a hat signed by Doyle, and like, it was like all this whole exciting thing. He made day two. And so like that was kind of like, my first like hearing about poker or whatever. And I remember, we used to have like family game nights and like with our family friends, and we'd play like, sit and go or whatever. Motherfucker. Okay.
Just waiting for his big blind, guys. Just let the man wait for his big blind to sit out.
Waiting to get stacked again. Okay. R.I.P.
No.
Anyway,
I
so
mean, just put it on the screen. That's fine.
and I put ace king queen deuce into ace king king and got scooped 3 times. Okay, so and so like I kind of knew what poker was. I knew how to play a little bit, and then when I went to college, like one of the first few nights, my buddies, like my roommates or suite mates or whatever you call them, and I were like looking for something to do, and like we happened upon a poker set, and we were like, okay, let's play some poker, like try it out. We played, we thought it was fun. We played again, thought it was fun. We played again, thought it was fun. All of a sudden, it was like an everyday thing. Like got really into it. I was watching the live at the bike streams, going out into the city to find like private games, whatever. So I really enjoyed it all throughout college. I played a ton. And then out of college, I was working in New York, but still played a ton, like on some apps, on like in some private games I found where they just raked us to death and whatever. But I was just like addicted to poker, and like that was all I thought about. And then when I moved out to LA, I was still working in finance at an investment bank, and I was friends with Ryan. I don't remember. I think we just had met like years ago at the bike when I was there, like randomly or whatever, and we were just like friendly. And anyways, I moved to LA, and he had hit me about potentially playing on the show or whatever, and so I decided like let me like play at the time. Like I think I'd say the stakes I was playing were like 5-10 or 10-20. Like I wasn't really trying to play big or whatever. I was mostly focused on work, but like poker was kind of like my passion and my favorite thing to do. Um, and like I think I played on the show like for a week, and like at the end of the week I won like let's say 20K or something, and I was like, oh, this is cool, 20,000, like that's good money. Then played again, started playing more, and like as I like, got more accustomed to playing the big stakes, and I was doing pretty good. I was just like, oh shit, it's a good opportunity. I got a lot of great opportunities to play like private stuff, like off stream and everything. A lot of it because of my Chinese, and like I did really well. And then I just decided like, fuck working, like let's just play poker, and kind of just the ball has rolled from there. So I mean, obviously like a lot of luck just to run good in the beginning or whatever, and like develop confidence and get good opportunities, and yeah, here we are.
There's a lot of unpack after that. I don't know if you took a breath during that entire sentence, but like,
Not much.
uh,
It's all like it's poker game. It's just it's fluid, baby. We just go.
all right. So first things first, like what year did you graduate from like high school and then college and kind of move on? Like I'm just trying to get like a basis for like
Yeah, yeah.
all your
High
shenanigans.
school, so high school 2014, college 2018, then I was in New York till 2020, came to LA during COVID for a year, then moved back to New York for a year, and then in 2022 moved back to LA where I've been full time.
You're young.
And now I won't
Jeez, yeah. Well, I already hate you. But well, I mean, for different reasons as well. But anyway, we'll move past that. We'll get to that later. But, like you also mentioned in there that you speak Chinese. I assume like Mandarin, not Cantonese, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So
Yeah, Mandarin.
that's got to be a story. No one accidentally learns Mandarin. I'm assuming. I certainly haven't.
Well, it wasn't kind of against my will. Like when my parents are from India, obviously, but I grew up in Oregon. I was born and raised there. But they kind of, because they were immigrants, like they always had a really international like outlook on my life and my sister's life, and kind of just, obviously they expected me to go a more traditional route with my career. And so they felt like, the world's getting smaller and it would be good to, learn Chinese because they felt like that was like the economy of the future. So, for a long time I tutored in Chinese. I lived over there a little bit in high school, and like I was able to just become fluent. And like the assumption that I had and my parents had was always that I would use it for my job in some fashion, maybe like some sort of international finance or whatever. And out of school, I was working at a bank, an investment bank that mostly dealt in international transactions. So there was like some opportunity there potentially to work, to use it. And I was always like, that'll be cool. But for some reason, it just never happened that I use it in my finance jobs. And, I've used it a lot in my poker.
I bet. I mean, like in gambling and Chinese people kind of go hand in hand. It seems like, especially at the highest stakes.
No, for sure.
Exactly.
And so, like, okay, were you enjoying your job at all? Like, I mean, you said like poker was your passion, but like that's different than like poker is my passion too when I had a job, but like I actually really enjoyed my job. Like, was it like, did you hate your job, or you just like you still liked it, but like poker was just kind of your deal?
I mean, I would say it was kind of like the best of like not so great thing. Like I just don't think like my personality is very suited to like working for other people, and
You don't say.
yeah, and like also like I mean I don't know how much you know about investment banking, but like it's very much like a 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. kind of like shift. Like you don't like
No.
it's like you're up early, you're up late all night, and I'm fine being up all night, but not really a morning person. I don't know. It wasn't necessarily my favorite thing in the world. It's a lot, especially when you're like younger in it. It's a lot more like robotic work, like building models, like building PowerPoints, building presentations, reviewing documents, reading stuff. It's not as much like creative and critical thinking, in my opinion, when you're younger in it, because you have to kind of like earn your stripes or whatever and do the grunt work. And I think for like a lot of reasons that like made it less exciting to me. Whereas like poker, where for all intents and purposes you're working for yourself, I think poker has a lot of creativity to it. Like you have the option to do a lot of fun stuff while you're playing, and to me that was kind of more of an interesting situation. And then also obviously like I'm a pretty social person, and I think like that poker, like the socialness of like live poker, was something that really like was fun for me as well.
So what did your parents think about this transition?
Well, my parents knew I'd been playing poker on the side like while I was working. um I think obviously my parents are traditional, like not, I shouldn't say super traditional Indian parents, but like they used to be more traditional Indian parents, and like as time has passed, they have like kind of modernized more and more, I'd say. Like when I was young, like I tutored every day after school, like in every class. Like the expectation was I get straight A's. Like it was very, very much like you're doing an instrument, like try to become like a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, like some sort of successful career. Anyways, I think like my parents were very satisfied with the fact that like I graduated from NYU, like I was working in finance, and then obviously I was playing poker on the side, and they kind of like was like that's fine. And then as I had some success on the side, I've always been like very like close to my dad, like openly talking to him about like what I'm doing kind of thing, like with regards to poker and gambling and stuff. And so like he knew I was winning, I guess I would say. Like I was playing, I guess like for example, before I really quit like to focus on poker, like the year leading up to it, I think I won like maybe 500,000 or whatever, like playing online mostly in like some private groups, and I was just like win like 5-10K a week or whatever, and nothing crazy, and like the games weren't that big, but I was just like consistently able to win in like some good games, and my dad was like, that's real money, that's great. And then when I kind of started playing more and more of the bigger stuff, I was still working, obviously, while I was first playing the bigger stuff. Like, when I was the first 6-7 months on Hustler, I think I was working full time. So I would get up at 4 in the morning, go to the office, 5 in the morning, go to the office. I would leave the office at like 6, 7 p.m. I'd go straight to Hustler, and like I'd wait to get a seat later in the stream, or I'd wait to play post stream. Or if I was playing on stream the whole day, I would leave the off. I would tell my boss like, "Hey, I'm leaving today at like 3:30 sharp," and I would get to the stream, go from 4 to 9 or whenever the game breaks, and I'd go back to the office at like 2 in the morning to make sure I got my work done. Or like I remember the first time Keating came and played on Hustler, the very first time or second time he played on Hustler, but the very first time I got to play with him. I was able to get into the game was on a Monday, I think, and I was able to get into the stream like in the last hour and a half. I got a seat, and we ended up playing till 5 in the morning, and I won like 270. So like that was my biggest win at the time. And I remember like it was like a really, really big game for me. Like at the time, like, I was taking a shot, like whatever, like we're gambling. And I won like 270. I played really good. I played some huge pots. Like I thought, like I was really happy. I was exhausted. It was 5 in the morning, and I went straight to the office, and I had a full day of work. But I called my dad on the way home and be like, "Hey, I just won 250,000. Like it was pretty sick. Like I'm going to the office." He's like, "Oh, what the fuck?" Like kind of thing. So I think my parents had a little bit more like like they weren't
You
as
get
stressed.
credibility right away. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
that's tough.
what was
Some
your
concept and
salary back then? Like what were you making at your job? Because you're early on in
So
I'm just
I was
because you
working at
hopped
like
basically right into high stakes. Like
I was working at a boutique bank. So the way like it works for junior bankers at that bank is like you get a low base salary. Like I think maybe I was making like maybe my salary was like 100K a year, maybe 110 or something. And then like depending on how you do at the end of the year, you get a bonus, which could be anywhere from like zero to maybe like five to $1 million, $500 million, right? Depending on how you
okay.
do and everything, obviously, and how the company does. But at the time, like with regards to money, like I think when I moved to LA for the second time, for like the final time, I think I had just, so I remember I had just so I had won like 500 the year before. So I had like 500 liquid maybe, okay? And I was like, man, I'm the richest fucker in the world, Like I'm 23, I have 500K on the side just from playing poker with like people. I'm just like I'm so fucking rich.
Yeah.
I
Didn't go
remember
to
I
your head.
moved
I get
I moved
it.
like 400K of it into my Thinkorswim account, which is like a trading account. I was like, I'm gonna spin this to like 50 million. Like it's just like it's destiny.
Guaranteed.
I remember like I was day trading SPY options. So like very high volatility, and like I have no idea what I'm doing, right? I'm just fucking
All right, real quick. Do you have crypto just sitting in a crypto wallet doing nothing? Then you've probably never heard of Gauntlet. Gauntlet.xyz is a billion-dollar research company that manages risk for huge internet platforms like Uniswap, Arbitrum, Jupiter, and a ton of other ones. And how can they help you? They actually curate these things called crypto vaults. And what's a crypto vault? Well, you just put your crypto in, you get an interest rate. The interest rate depends on the supply and demand of that particular token that you put into there. It's kind of complicated, but their algorithms make it like 1,000 poker solvers are working on your side. And you get a return on crypto that was just sitting in your wallet anyway. Here, let me show you how it works. I've got 800 USDC here. I'm gonna put it into this USDC vault. The current interest APY is a little over 9%. So I'm gonna get that for a little bit and I can take it out whenever I want. Now, as you can see, they have a bunch of different vaults, a bunch of different tokens. Do your own research on all of this, which one appeals to you, but definitely don't let your crypto just sit in your wallet doing nothing. It could be here earning for you. So if you've got USDC or USDT, which if you're a poker player, you probably do, you're gonna wanna have it sitting in one of these vaults earning something for you. So head on over to gauntlet.xyz/T1 and it'll take you right to the vault page. You'll be able to check out which one looks good to you. All right, back to the show.
And I remember when my wife and I were moving, right? I had 400K in there, and the way we did the move was we like shipped all of our stuff to LA from New York, and then we drove to Oregon, where my parents and her parents are, to pick up our cars and stuff that we had left here when we were in New York. And we decided we'll hang out for a week before we go to LA. And in that week, I lost 400K trading SPY options. Obviously, I dusted it too. Like, I mean, like the market would start going up, that day. So I'd fire like 100K in the call options, and then it would turn, and I'd be losing, and I'd fire 100K into the put options, and it would turn back up, and I'd fire 100K into the call options, and it turn back. I just everything I did wrong, right? But I was just fucking dusting it. So I lost 400, and I remember I was just like in hell or whatever. I think when we moved to LA, maybe like my net worth was 150K, and I remember like when I first jumped the first week I played Hustler, I remember I had gone to the bank and I had pulled out 40K cash, and I was like, "This is like a lot of money to me, right?" For like one poker game, because usually in the poker games I was playing, like even though I'd won a bunch, like it was like 5K buy-in, right? Like I don't think I'd ever lost more than like 15K maybe in a session, right? And I remember like that first week I put 40K and I won and I was like on top of the world. But my philosophy had always been was always kind of like it's a free roll, like the poker stuff, where it's like I have a job. I know if I just grind investment banking, like I'll be extremely successful in the long run, like maybe 20 years or whatever, but I'll be, very rich and successful and life will be good. But also like, so the poker's kind of just like a free roll. If I busted, I just go back to that. And if I do well, I'm do well. And so like there are many times where like, and like I've never really had like a poker roll and life roll. I just have fucking my money and I just fire. And so like I remember like there were multiple times where I'd be playing at Hustler and like I would have 90% of my net worth on the table or whatever, like sitting 500K deep, and I had, 550K, I had 50K in the bank account. And I was like, if I dust this 500, like I'm good. Like I can pay rent, like we're good. I'll just go back to I have work. I get my 5K salary, paycheck, whatever in the month. My wife gets her paycheck. We're fine. Like, no big deal. And so, um, but I was lucky enough to like run pretty good. And, at the time, like I was very focused on like playing good. I think my first year and a half or so on Hustler, I think I was playing pretty fucking lights out hold'em. I would have taken on anyone at the time, and I was crushing everyone. I felt like on stream and off stream and stuff. And yeah, so that was like a fun time. I remember that it was a different time. Like I was actually like, I actually was like thinking about it with regards to Art's tweet that he had put out about Negreanu recently.
Oh, babies. Oh, sorry. Sorry, we're getting
Don't mind
naked.
all the
He said tweet, not teats.
don't mind all the toothpaste stains or whatever. But
Or
he
whatever.
had talked about how like Negreanu had said like or whatever. Like kind of like in poker, like you're chasing like building a bankroll or whatever, and then when you get there, kind of like you build that success, you can feel like some sort of lack of purpose, which is something I've been struggling with a lot. And it sounds like super entitled and like dickish to say, but like being young and like pretty financially successful has been kind of a challenge in a different way, where it's just like I feel bored a lot, like I do a lot of stupid shit because I'm bored, like dusting money on apps or whatever, because it kind of like Ishan says, like I'm kind of like trying to create a challenge for myself. Like there have been times in the past, like where I've like almost busted my roll, like from multiple millions or whatever to zero or whatever. Like I remember, I think like tell another story about that. Like it's hard for me to remember the exact timeline, but I think it was like the first year I was playing a Hustler. I had run, the 40K I took there to, mid 6, 7 figures. Okay. And it was pretty good for like 6, 7 months or whatever, just running up like mid 7 figures. And I was just like every game I would show up to, I was like, I'm going to cover everyone for any amount. I'm going to put everyone to the test. I'm going to be the boss. If I'm stuck a million, I'm gonna add fucking 2 million just to prove a point, whatever, right? And I remember like I had this day where I went to Hustler and I was like on life tilt, and it was like kind of like a winner's tilt thing, you know what I mean? Like where everything's just like going good or whatever. I don't know exactly how to explain it, but Ishan just says like I do this whenever like I'm crushing. He's like you just like get tilted about how easy things are, which like sounds bad, but it's just like a weird issue I have. And so I remember I went there, and that was the day I lost like 850 or something playing 100, 200. That was the day like I dusted it to Rampage, I dusted it to like Stanley Choi. Like I mean, like every hand was just like I had 10-3 off and I was ready to put in 300,000 with it, and I did, you know. And I lost like 800K or something in a game that was just like 800K was like, obviously I think at the time it was my biggest loss and it was a lot of money, but it was mostly just painful because it was like this was a game to lose 200K on a bad day, not 800, right? And I remember I was super till, and then like the next week I played in some private games and I lost a bunch. And then I played on it. Then it was Thanksgiving week, and my parents came to town and they were staying with me. And I think I've told this story before, but I'm not sure if I told it on that podcast. So my parents were, they're staying with me and my wife, and I organized a 500 1,000 game at Hustler off stream, and it was like it was an okay game, I guess I would say. Like at the time, in hindsight, it was an okay game. At the time, every game was a great game to me because I was killing everyone, in my opinion. But it was an okay game. There were a couple like super VIPs that played, but there was also like a handful of players that were probably just like too good. And I ended up losing 1 million that day. And I remember like going home, like that was like it was bad. Like losing 1 million was like I had just lost like a couple million straight. Like it was just like getting a little hairy kind of. And I remember I went and like I lost it like in the first like 400 was very reasonable. Like I remember the game started, I got 100K in like in the first orbit against a guy with Ace King, and he also had Ace King, and like I'm like run it once. What the fuck? We're not gonna run it twice. We both have Ace King. We're not gonna waste time. And it just comes Queen Jack 10 Rainbow, and whatever, and then just backdoors a flush, and I die obviously. And so I'm like, what the fuck, right? So then I reload like 250 or whatever it is because everyone bought in 100. So now I'm making sure I cover everyone. And literally, like the next orbit, we're in a blind versus blind hand, me and him. We're like, I open, he three bets, I four bet, he calls. The flop comes like 9-7 deuce. I check, he bets, I check raise with kings. He shoves, I call, he has set of nines, I double him up again. So now like, I just like, player transfer this guy 300,000 like in the first orbit, and I'm just like on stone cold tilt, and like then things just went like nuclear. Like I just fucking blasted. And I remember like I was so DJ, and I had like 900K at Hustler, okay, at the time, just like in my player's account, and I dusted it. And so I told one of the players like, give me 100, because I have good credit. And so he gives me 100, and I turn to the guy and I say, okay, let's flip for the 100.
Wow.
Look for it right now. I was like, bro, like, let's play. Like, either quit or play. Like, like we're not flipping. So like, I was just like full tilt. And I remember like I almost like at that point like I had dusted like most of what I had or whatever, and I was like feeling so down in the dumps, going home and like seeing my dad and my mom and just like feeling gross about the whole thing. And like it's also like I have this like I've always had this weird perspective. It's less now, but it was at the time when I was like kind of more on the way up, which is like my wife is a nurse, right? So she makes like 125,000 a year. Feels a little gross to lose like 6 years of her salary, So
Yeah.
like that was also like a interesting thing, but part of the game or whatever and learning and
Art and I have no idea what you're talking about. Our wives,
Yeah, we always
never
win, and
experience
we've
it.
never lost their salary.
Yeah.
It's cool. Dude, I mean, that was a lot that was a rapid fire situation
Yeah,
there that
sorry.
you,
Yeah, no,
no,
that's
it's okay. There's a lot to unpack there. No, it was good. You're just like such a unique, most of the people we've talked to are kind of more in our generation of like, they came up online and they ran up their $50 or they ran up whatever, $50, 2,000 times, however many times they had to deposit. But you're different because you had a job and a career and you were getting paid pretty well. And you just like,
and you're 14.
and you're 14, now 15, going on 19. And just like, I don't know, it's just so different to me I mean, it's the same because like
It's the same gamble for sure.
I also put like most of my money on the line a lot of the times. I just never ran it up as huge as it sounds like you did. And you just kept just doing it. And you're just like, oh, my 40 is now 500 and now it's mid millions. But, I'm still going to put 80% of that on the line because who cares? I just want to keep running it up. And you mentioned my tweet about Dan Negreanu, but I'll tell you, that was actually inspired by seeing you say something about like hitting financial independence and like not knowing
Oh
what
yeah,
to
because
do.
yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, anybody who out there probably follows at least Nick, probably not me, but at Art Parman on Twitter if you don't. And Nick posted something about trying to find your purpose after you basically have all the money that
security,
all the money that you need, and you're like, well, you struggle with finding your purpose, and then I happen to be watching Poker Go, and Daniel Negreanu is sitting there talking to his neighbor. They're not even playing a hand. It's like the boom camera is like above, and they don't even probably know they're being recorded. And he's just like, yeah, it's just weird. I knew so many people who ran it up to $1 million, and then just like, a week later, they're asking to borrow 500, and it's just like, that's what happens when you lose your purpose. Like, your purpose was to make all this money, and you made it, and then you're like, well, I better just lose it and sabotage myself, and
Mhm.
then I have something to work for again because I did this before. And I can relate to that a lot because I have run up money a lot, and I have, lost it a lot. And I'm just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done these other things that I did in between.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was lucky enough that I guess in my like serious poker journey, like I guess after that Thanksgiving session, that was the closest time I ever came to like busting it all. Like I think I ran like, 40K to like let's just say 5 million back to 250K or something like that. It was pretty gross, like the amount I ran it down. And a lot of that was like that winner's tilt thing or what, like I guess just like it was kind of like there was a time where when I was playing, like obviously I was putting it all on the line, but I was there to win. Like I was there to kill everyone, like play my best. Like I was gonna like I was making crazy plays, but it's because like I was like certain they would work, and like I had reads on everyone, and I was just like locked in. And I was like I think for sure for like a 6 to 8 month stretch, I was the best player in the world, and I would fucking put my money on that if I could somehow go back in time. Like I just remember feeling like the utmost confidence, and like obviously there's a lot of run good in there too, but like things just worked, and like I did a lot of crazy things that just worked. And um, I think at some point, like it's exactly what you said, where it's just like this self-sabotage thing happened where like I no longer felt that much of an urge to like try to crush people or try to play good or try to win, because I was like I already have like enough money or whatever. And like that self-sabotage thing happened. And then after like kind of like dusted it all or whatever, being an idiot, I like once again like locked in, played great, ran it back up to like, even higher. And like since then I've been lucky that I've like been generally smart. Like I still go through these periods where like things are too good almost, and I like torch it or whatever. And like whenever I do that, I try to reset. And like I just struggle a lot with like the purpose stuff. Like I know, and I know this sounds like I've got a lot of hate kind of online for this a little bit for saying this because it sounds so entitled, and I agree. But it's just also like my personal truth, and so like whatever. Like even though it's not necessarily everyone's truth, and it sounds douchey, it just is. Is like I spend a lot of time just trying to figure out like what I want in life or what I want to do day to day. Like I just like find myself being bored a lot. Like I just like today, for example, I woke up late, jump on the phone, dust 100,000 or whatever, like an idiot, and like it's just like what I don't know. I'm bored. Like it doesn't hurt like that much. I'm just bored. Like play whatever, right? And like I just have struggled with finding purpose and like knowing what to do or what to do. And I don't know. I talk to Ishan a lot. This a lot. And just kind of it's a much more like entitled issue to have, but it's kind of been challenging for me. And I don't know. I'm still working through it and stuff. And yeah, I definitely have lost like a lot of like the like passion for poker. Like when I was more on the way up or whatever, like it was like I wanted to play every second, all day, never quit, whatever. And now like, I'm happy to quit sessions. Like I'm not that eager to play always. Like I go through spells, like where I'm like, yeah, let's go, I'll play. And then I go through spells where I'm just like, I don't like poker right now. I don't feel like playing. I don't feel like dealing with it and stuff. And like that's been kind of like a new challenge as well because like poker was kind of always a steady thing since like my freshman year of college. It's like I always want to be playing poker since then. You know what I mean? So now to not have that is like a little bit weird and stuff. So I don't know, trying to figure it out and stuff. And yeah.
Just a quick break here. Have you ever checked out like the listing for Coachella or some other music festival and you look at it and you're like, man, Kanye, I don't know a lot of bands, Eminem, how do they get all these people on here? Well, Phenom Poker has a list of pros: Joe Chong, Sergio Ido, Justin Young,
Chris Hunichin.
Brian Brass, Chris Hunichin,
Eric Baldwin. Yeah, it's a who's who.
It's a who's who of guys who just support this
Engel.
platform, and it hasn't even launched yet. And Table One is on that list. We support Phenom Poker. We think they're gonna do good things. It's gonna be the online poker site that you can trust. You can deposit with crypto. They're gonna teach you how to do everything. And the best time to sign up is right now before they launch, because everybody who signs up to the waiting list is gonna get extra tokens, extra rake back. It's really gonna be in your best interest to sign up now. So just check in the description below. We're gonna have a link right at the top that says Phenom Poker, sign up through Table One, get on the waiting list, and sign up today.
Super simple. Name, email, and then you're on with us. So it almost sounds like you like fast forward through every poker player's career or successful poker player's career. Like it's like, I love poker, I can't get enough, I can't get enough. You get success, and then you kind of like taper off or whatever. But you did it in like 4 years, where like most of us, it takes like 20, 25, 30
career
years or something like that.
Mhm.
Which, I mean, like what you described is, I wouldn't say is the way I felt, but like, I mean, there's certainly like peaks and valleys that like I've felt over like my long career. But like that's I don't know. I think that's kind of unique that like you kind of like just kind of fast forwarded this the
You
feeling of a
you put
gambler.
it on hyperdrive,
Yeah.
basically. You're just like
It's funny
zipping
too.
through the experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
remember like when I was in college or whatever, I would watch Live at the Bike and I would see like, the Friday game like with Garrett and Art and like Dan Zach and these guys, and they would buy in like, 20K or whatever to play 100, 200. And I'd be like, who the fuck has 20,000 to play poker with, Or I would go to the bike and like play 5-5, right? And it's $1,000 buy-in. My goal, and like, you buy in for like a rack of $5 chips and $500 chips. And I'd be like, my goal is to have a stack of $100 chips, And like,
yeah.
it was like so much more exciting to like fight for that. Or like, I remember my first time like winning 100K in a session. We were playing 25-50 off stream, and I smashed them, and I won 100, and I was like, "This is the sickest thing ever." Whereas now, like, I don't know, like I've won like 7 figures in a session multiple times, and like it doesn't quite do it for me. You know what I mean? In the way that it used to when you had that like chase and the drive and like trying to come up and like like I was like back then it was like now I have 500, now I have a million, now I have 1.5. Like it was like now I'm playing the first time ever playing 200, 400, first time playing 500,000, first time playing 1,000, 2,000. Like now it's like I played like 5,000, 10,000 PLO and like 4,000, 8,000 hold'em. There's not really games that are bigger to chase, you know what I mean? Like it's like, kind
So
of
you
like
capped
weird.
yourself. Yeah, you just capped yourself. I mean,
It's
you
like
you
that first hit of heroin with the good baggie,
yeah.
right? And then now, I mean, I
Right,
don't know
right,
about
I don't
drugs,
know
but
either.
that's what you see on TV,
Yeah,
and like you've hit the dopamine high and the serotonin high, and now you're like chasing it for the rest of your life.
yeah, and I know I'm certainly there's bigger games than that. I assume, but like those are got to be the biggest games or close to the biggest games like in the world, and probably will be forever. And even if like the games get bigger, like whatever, like it's tough to like kind of reach the rush. Like it's
Yeah.
I agree. Like you're chasing the dragon, just like we all were when we were like your age when you got started or whatever, and like you just met it like quicker than we did, I suppose.
Yeah, let's zoom in on that 2-5 and 5-10 period, because I know a lot of people out there probably have no idea that like Nik Airball actually made a lot of his money playing poker. Like they're like, oh, some rich investment banker guy that gets to play Chinese private games, so now he's rich. Like there was like a period in there where you were, I wouldn't say grinding, because like you said, you had a job and you were like,
Still
I don't
sounds
know.
like grinding. I mean, I feel like you're getting off work at 4 and like playing till like whatever.
Yeah, but
It
like
was
there's, how did
grinding, but like in a
you,
different way. Like it was a grinding for the love of it. Like it wasn't necessarily like I was grinding trying to make money. It was just like, man, I want to be here playing poker. Like I want to be here trying to build a role so I can play in a bigger game. And like it wasn't really about money. It was like I wanted to just get the opportunity to play bigger. And I remember like, I was definitely like a 5-5 whale. Like I just couldn't beat those like, live games at the bike. I couldn't. But I remember like, I was always like good at being social, and for me, like I saw my opportunity in poker like more like private games, being able to get myself into situations that like I could beat. Um, and so like I remember like I was just like a dusty whale probably at 5-5 at the bike, and then like Feldman used to run like some 10 quarter private games, and I was able to get into those, and I was able to like win a little bit in those, and like I mean they were huge for me. Don't get me wrong. Like I'd buy in like 2,500 and 10 quarter, and like Andy would be sitting there with 50K, and I'd be like shitting my pants to put my 2,500 in. I'd be like, if I don't have the nuts, like this 2,500 is not going in the middle. And like it's just like I don't know. I just have like so many good memories. Like I have like all these pictures on my phone from like 2000 like 16 17. I'm in college like traveling. I'm home for the summer or whatever. I travel down to the bike to play, where I have like $2,500 stack, and I took a picture of it because it was so sick. Or like I have a $1,500 stack, I took a picture of it because I'm like, man, I fucking ran this up. Or like I have this one picture of like a 4K stack from like a 2-5 PLO game where I ran like 500 to 4K, and I was like, I am a god. Like I was just like, I have all these like hilarious memories of that, and like it was just like so pure. Like I just loved
Yeah.
it. And like, I remember like a lot of people have this misconception that like I made a lot of money from investment banking, or I have a trust fund, or like my wife's rich or whatever. Like, no, that's true. Like it was just a joke I used to always make as an excuse for like getting into games. Like, oh, I'm an investment banker. I am an investment banker. I was working in an investment bank. Doesn't mean I made any money doing it, but like, hey, it is what I am doing for a living, technically, right? Or like I gave the trust fund joke just as a joke because that was funny to be like, yeah, I have a huge trust fund when like obviously I don't, but so that was kind of a joke. But yeah, like I was lucky enough to be successful in poker. But like that being said, like at this point in my poker career, or whatever, I'm pretty like aware of my situation. I don't think I'm that good at poker these days. I think I'm okay. I think I do things pretty good against certain classes of players.
Oh,
That
like
being
us,
said,
right? I
that
mean,
being
that's what you
said,
mean, right?
uh,
To be
well,
no, to be
maybe,
honest,
but
it's
that
Certain
okay.
being
Justin
said,
types.
It's okay.
I I've been able to position myself to play in really good games with like guys who just like aren't taking poker as serious, and I've done that by being social, being willing to swing huge. Like I I've played in some big games with like really rich guys, and like part of the reason like I'm able to play is because I might lose 1 million in a session, and like if we're playing in a casino, I have the million in chips to put on the table and lose. I don't need you to borrow, and if we're playing online or whatever, like I lose 1 million, I'll send you the crypto tomorrow. Like it's it's like I'm have put myself in a situation where I can play in these games for whatever reason it is, and play against competition who's not necessarily like as focused as I am or care as much about as I do, which is still not that much, but it's just they don't care. And like that's kind of like how I've been able to be successful and stuff. And yeah.
Yeah, there's that famous quote about you don't have to be the best poker player in the room. You just have to be better than the 6 or 7 people you're playing against or whatever. And I don't know, a lot of people say Dan Bilzerian made a lot of his money that way. Who knows? It could have been trust fund or his father, but
I honestly believe him too.
I
Like,
believe he's
I
made a lot of
think
money
trust.
playing
Yeah,
poker. I mean,
I,
how
I
good
believe
could
Dan.
Stevie Aoki really be?
yeah.
I think people underestimate how rich and how big private games can be. I
Yeah.
just there are some guys who just they got to get rid of the money. They can't hold on to it, and it doesn't matter how bad or rich you are at poker, they just can't hold on to it. I mean, like I'm telling you, like I've played with like so many guys who were playing big games. Like swinging like 500,000 to 1 million or whatever, and they will never ever 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 walk out of the game without having exhausted all of their credit. Like they have a credit stop, and they will never leave the game without exhausting all of their credit, and the game will continue to go because they will not quit. And if they won't quit, none of us will quit until they've exhausted all their credit. And it's just kind of like you just sit there and you wait for like, and like don't get me wrong, I've lost in those games too, plenty of times. But like you just sit there and you wait and you hope that you don't lose, and it's fun.
Sounds fun. I mean, it's fun when you don't lose. I know that. It's also good when you don't get scammed though. I've played a couple home games, at
Mm,
least one notable one where I got scammed out of a lot of cheddar cheese. I mean, for my personal situation, I know you also got fucked in a few LA games from what I've read on past
yeah,
Twitter threads with the crypto Wesley, I think is it? What's his name? West Side Wesley?
yeah,
Oh, Wesley. I
absolutely,
remember
yeah.
Wesley. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you want to
I
talk about that experience,
games
but
Home games aren't really my thing, to be honest. I play a couple of them, a couple of private online groups, but they're very tight knit circles now that I play in. Like the player pools are sub 20 players total, and very high integrity people, like businessmen and stuff. But I prefer to just, for me personally, I've always been a prefer to play the casino guy. I'm happy. I have money at the casino. I'm ready to play with my money there. I don't, I don't have. I just let's show up. Let's play at the end. Like let me take the chips, put them in my box, and like let me go on my merry way. Or you take my chips and you put them in your box. Like let's just call it good.
yeah,
I don't. I've
yeah.
been very dis in love with like, or I don't know what the word is, but like I just haven't enjoyed this whole like you win 1 million, and I get the text like plus 1 million. Like I'm just like motherfucker. Like I want to get paid. Like
Right.
Yeah, it's like I think I don't know if it's a famous quote, but it's a good quote. Like home games are tough. It's hard enough to win at poker, and then you got to worry about getting paid. Like
Yeah. And it's
yeah.
true. I mean, whatever. Between the rake and like getting paid and like getting cheated, like it's just stuff. Like I mean, everyone's got bad experience with home games. If you haven't, then you haven't been playing home games long enough, or you are super super lucky. It's just the way it like kind of runs out. Casinos are the best option just for those out there.
And
Um,
I think like there's like this misconception that like if you only play in casinos, like you can't kind of like achieve the poker dream or like run it up or whatever. But like it's just like nonsense. Like I mean like yeah, I played in a lot of private games now or whatever, but when I ran up my money, I didn't play in a fucking single private game. Everything was the casino. Like I was playing at Hustler on stream, or I was organizing games off stream at the casino, at the casino, at the casino. Every day I wanted to be at the casino because it was just safe. The money is there. Like we play, that's it. Like there's no rake, there's no nonsense, there's no worrying about fucking being cheated, getting paid. There's no worry about cops coming in because people are doing something illegal in the back room. Like there's just no worry. Like you just you just play and that's it. And that was like kind of to me like that opportunity still exists in poker. I mean, yeah, it's not like you just show up and at Aria and you jump in the fucking 5-5 and you win, and you jump in the 5-10 and you win, jump in the 10-20. Yeah, you have to like do stuff to like get into games. You have to work. Like it's not just about your skills, it's about your social, awareness and your networking and kind of like all that stuff. But it still exists, and you can show up at. I fully believe that I could show up at Aria today with 20,000 and in a year leave with 1 million if I played my cards right.
So it's funny you mentioned that. Like you had a post on X a few days ago. I don't
Yeah.
know if it was a challenge if you're looking for like side action or whatever, but like basically we're like saying like you're pretty sure you could like take 20K, not touch anything past the 20K and run up to $1 million in a year.
Yeah.
I think that's super sexy to like put out there. Like I think it's cool. I'm not trying to equate you to like Chris Ferguson, but he did something very similar on like Full Tilt way back in the day before you were born, maybe.
Yeah.
But like I think he like said he would start with zero money and like go from like free roll tournaments and make $1 million in a year. And he's promoting Full Tilt, to be fair.
Right.
But like he achieved it. Like I do think it's very very doable. And like to your prior point of like you're setting a new goal for yourself. Like,
Yeah.
like it's not that money doesn't matter to you. Obviously it does, but like you're looking for a new challenge. You're looking for a new roadblock to like kind of like leap over. Like
Yeah. So how that like
is
came
that why you
up?
did it? Yeah.
Yeah. So how that came up is like I was talking to Ishan from Bala, and I was just like having that same like existential like I don't know what to do kind of thing. I told him I was like, bro, let's just dust our entire networks. Let's just buy sick shit. Like, let's go buy some mansions all cash. We'll buy some Ferraris. We'll buy watches. We'll just go buy everything we can want to buy in the world.
Kill the
And
liquidity.
we'll dust it all. We'll have nothing
Back Art and Justin, for instance.
Yeah.
left. Yeah, whatever. Exactly.
We'll just torch it.
We'll just torch it all. Okay. We can buy sick shit. We can go fly. We can get private jet to Italy and stay in a 50,000 a night hotel, but we'll just find a way to dust it. Okay. And once we've dusted it and we have like 20K left, let's run it back up. And I was like, that'll be fucking sick. And Sean was like, that is the stupidest idea of all time. Like,
That's a good friend you have, by the way.
yeah. You are an idiot. He's like, what you could do, he said, is you can lock up a significant amount of money, or you can, he's like, whatever, like put it into like a bond or whatever, and leave yourself a certain amount, or you can just, set aside 20K and say, this is your role to play and try to build it up. And I was like, that's a good idea. And I think I can do that. And so I was like, I've been trying to, once again, it's go back to like this purpose thing. I was kind of putting it out there to say like, if I get some side action on it, that would be fun. If I can make a YouTube series out of that, would be fun. Like I'm like a content addict because I'm so bored all the time. Like I just love watching content, like YouTube content, TV shows, whatever. Like I spend so much time watching them that like I just like love the idea of like content. I also like know what I like to watch, which is like very much like this idea of like it's like a longer journey, through episodes. And so I thought like, trying to build 20K to 1 million or something would be pretty cool. It would be also be something that I think is like more relatable. Like I think when me and Ishan like had thought about doing content before, one issue was, and this is an issue I think exists in like Rampage's vlogs, Mariano's vlogs to some extent, like is that it's not as relatable because people were playing so big, like it's hard, like it's cool to give people insight into like big games. Be like, oh, this is a hand history from 500 1000 where you played a 500K pot, right? But I think people don't really relate to that. Whereas I think like this idea of like a journey that people can actually be like along the way can be trying to achieve themselves is cool. And like obviously like it's not exactly like a cut and paste thing where it's like obviously I have a lot of advantages starting off with 20K that most people don't, which is that like as it is, I can play in like literally every single game there is available.
Sure.
That's good.
No.
That bankroll, and like most people don't necessarily have that where like they can just play anything. So I have some advantages, but I think like it would just be fun to try to like, you know, count the points, keep track and see how high we can get or whatever. It's like a video game or whatever. And I just thought that would be like a fun thing to do and create content around it would be fun. And yeah, because like I don't know, content to me is like really fun. Like I just I like the idea of it. My issue is I just don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of lazy about like getting started. So I'm trying to like
Well,
I think the motivator for me would be like people being like, yeah, do it. It's gonna be cool. And then I'm actually like get going. So like putting stuff out there is like kind of like a way of trying to hold myself accountable.
right. Like, and like whether you get the side action you need or not, like I really hope you do this. Like I think it's to your point, like I think it gives you a reason to like find passion again. And like
Mhm.
like whatever. Like if I don't know how much action you're looking for, doesn't matter. I hope you like still do it. Just like I hope you actually create content from that as well, because I do think it's gonna be, to your point, like very relatable, and like people are gonna like be with the roller coaster the entire way, because it will be a roller coaster. It's like if you run it just from like 20K to $1 million in like 3 months, like everyone's gonna be super sad. And to be fair, that won't happen. Like
Yeah.
unless you
He's like,
play
"Oh, I signed up for a tournament and I won."
Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for tuning in.
I'll be at
Anyway.
Poker Masters this Thursday. Like,
Yeah.
firing it all.
There was a
Yeah,
20K tournament. I signed up and I won.
Yeah.
Game over.
I just thought like that
Shortest
would be
series
kind of
ever.
fun. Like something that like I think like for a long time too on Hustler, like when I first started playing, like for me in particular, like it may not people don't have this impression, but the impression in the reality in the high stakes circle is I'm a winning player, um, professional poker player, right? And so like it's not necessarily like something where people like professional poker players aren't always invited to games, like right? And like so for me, I worked hard to get myself like a secure to see a hustler basically, like by being social, by doing other things that were good for the game, good for the ecosystem, and like giving a lot of action, gambling hard, but like positioning myself to get into these private games. And a lot of it too was for me at the time was focusing on getting a seat every day, every time I wanted to play at Hustler. Because when I first started playing, it was like, "Hey Ryan, like I want to play on Tuesday." He's like, "I'll let you know if there's a seat." "Hey Ryan, I want to play on Wednesday." He's like, "I'll let you know if there's a seat," right? Because like you're trying to like get in the door, add value. And so for me, like I think a big part of adding value was like I was a big character on the stream. Like I was kind of like a villain in a lot of ways. And I think like some of that was intentional, some of that was unintentional. Like some things that like people don't like that I did, I think are like great. Like calling the clock on everyone. Like that shit's fucking amazing. Like I fucking saved poker by calling clock on everyone. All you fucking nits like taking 18 hours to call with the biggest hands I've ever seen. Like, yeah, I'm gonna just clock your asses all over the place. You know what I mean? Like I think
Good
that
for
was
you.
great. I got so much hate for that. Or just like kind of like talking shit or whatever. I'm like, it's not like this big thing. Like I'm just talking shit. We're having fun. Like we're trying to play poker. Like I'm trying to make it to create a dynamic with like another player so that like when I have it in the big spot, like I can stack their asses, like I want them to feel like I'm trying to create a dynamic, and all this stuff comes across very villainous or whatever. And so I think like I got a lot of hate or whatever. And especially like leading into and throughout the Berkey like heads up match, like there was just like an egregious amount of hate. And like that was very frustrating for me because like especially with the Berkey stuff, and like I know you guys have a relationship with Matt, so like I'm not trying to like
I know.
shit
I
all
want to get into that at some point anyway. No, like I want to
but like
hear.
I think I have very low respect for Matt and very low thoughts. Like I just don't think Matt's like very smart. I don't think he's a very good person, and I don't like him. And I think he runs his mouth way too much, which is like coming from me because I run my mouth. And like I felt like I was in the right, like the moral right when we were playing or whatever. Like I felt like I was fighting for the good guys, or whatever. And but I obviously like there was a lot of like hate or whatever. And like I think ever since then, like I've kind of been focused on just like trying to be more positive and like I don't know. I want to like put more positivity. Like it's like the Philhelm hashtag positivity. Like it's fun. It's more fun to be loved than hated. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. Like it's more fun to be loved and hated. And like, I don't ever get like ever ever get any hate in person. Like people always are just super happy to chat, like want pictures, whatever. And like I just enjoy that a lot more. And I for me personally, like even though social media is like kind of a toxic place, like I would like for my social media interactions to be mostly positive. And like I can't tell you how many times I've drafted up like a response to someone just motherfucking the hell out of them and like whatever, and then I just delete it and I'm just like take a deep breath and I'm just like let it be, like let them talk shit, like whatever, and like even this last thing, like the 20K millions, I got like 17 responses just telling me how I'm like a scammer and like no one would ever trust me to do this because I'm gonna scam them. I'm like, and in my head, I'm writing these responses like, you motherfucking idiot, like you have no idea. Like I do fucking $1 million transactions every day. If I wanted to scam, I could have taken 100 million and disappeared already. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, how am I gonna scam someone over 20K? How am I gonna scam someone when I could lose like 50K in a side bet? You think I give a fuck? Like, I'll light 50K on fire. But then I just like take a deep breath, move on, and let them do their thing. I just block their asses because I'm just like I don't want any negativity
I
on my
think
fucking.
this is actually like I might be getting the story wrong, but we're taking it way back pre-social media. I think Abraham Lincoln, he once like wrote like a scathing letter to somebody that was like his enemy or whatever, or somebody he got in disagreement with. He sent it, and the guy was like, "You know what? Let's duel." And like back then, like you just kind of had to agree to a duel if like you got dueled, and like he had to find a way out of it or whatever. And he was like, damn man, that was close. I almost like had a 50-50 shot of dying. Like from now on, what I'm gonna do is if I don't like someone, I'm gonna write like something really mean. I'm gonna write them a mean ass letter, and then I'm just gonna put it in my desk, and I'm not gonna send it to them. And like that's kind of like what you're saying. You just fucking write up something really mean, and then you're like,
Yeah.
save to drafts. Like
Yeah, exactly.
I'm
I'm
done.
just like trying to be more zen, trying not to just fucking like I just have this bad habit my whole life of like if someone like wants to come at me like 0 to 100 real quick, like I'm ready to fucking go to war. You know what I mean? Like verbally and like just fight, argue with you to the death. Trying to be more zen. I'm not everyone's cup of tea. People have a misconception of me. That's fine. People who know me, and that's okay. You know,
So
zen.
I
Zen.
sorry, I'm not trying to
Zen
get
the
you on
airball.
Zen. I'm really not trying to get you on Zen, but like how did like the you and Berkey thing like get kicked off? Like and like you don't have to go to it if you don't want to,
No,
or
I don't
like
mind.
just gonna raise it.
No, I don't care at all. So it all started with like the Garrett Robbie stuff. So like after that happened, that whole situation, like Garrett accused me of cheating, which pissed me off
Sure.
to an amount I can't even describe. And Matt was him and his friends are, attention whores or whatever. And they obviously like jumped on their podcast that no one watches and just complained and talked all this shit about Hustler, about all the regs, about Ryan and like who I consider my close friend and stuff. And like, a lot of my friends were dragged through the mud and I just was like, this is gross. Like you guys don't actually know anything. You're just speculating on your platform to a bunch of people that don't don't know better than to how to like have critical thinking with what you're saying and they're just like listening, being spoon-fed misinformation and like it's lame, like and my whole thing was like it's just lame like what you're doing, like it's just like you're using a tough situation that me and my friends are going through to get clicks, and I thought it was super lame. And so it kind of started with me being like I'm going to teach him a lesson and talk shit back on my platform, which was Hustler. So on Hustler I'm like, yeah, Berkey's a scammer. And like I will say this, scammer is the wrong word, but my sentiment is still correct, which is that you can't be a losing live game player coaching people. That's to me,
No,
that's
no.
okay. That was what I would my point. Maybe scam is the wrong word, but to me, that would be like if I was like, hey Justin, I'm gonna teach you how to trade spy options, daily spy options. I'd be like, that seems a little bit fucked up for me to be telling Justin, like, hey man, pay me to teach you how to dust. Like, that seems fucked up. Right. And so like that was my whole thing. I was like, you want to talk shit about us at Hustler? Well, I'm gonna use my Hustler platform, which has way more views than your Dusty podcast, to talk shit back and call him a scammer for the reasons that I'm explaining. Now, maybe scammer is the wrong word, but I still stand by what I said, which is that the guy's a losing live ring player. You don't get a coach. But anyways, and so that's kind of how we kicked it off. And everyone else like kind of like to talk, but I'm like I pride myself on like when I talk shit, I'm willing to back it up. Like I'm like, oh, I'll cover everyone and fuck on everyone. I cover everyone and fuck on everyone if I say that. With Matt, I was like, listen, I'll play you heads up, no problem. Like I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. Like I'm ready to go. Let's do it. And his whole thing, so I told him, I was like, let's play heads up, like, we can do it. And he's like, oh, well, I'm not gonna like come to LA or whatever. Like he tried to me, it was like his way of like not saying he'll play without, but like getting out of playing. So I was like, fuck it, dude. Like you can sell the action you need to sell. I'll come to Vegas. I'll play you in your backyard. Let's play. Like it's just to prove a point. And that's how it kind of got started. And then I got ravaged.
Well, all I took from that was you can make me a lot of money from
Buy
Talking
options.
shit.
So yeah, just let me know where to put my money and I'll
NikAirballOptions.com. Coming soon.
No, I mean obviously
I
we
will say
we
about
were
the
both
Berkey
around during all that stuff too. Like I mean it
like
was
that was like for sure the most challenging like professional stretch I think during and after like that match kind of I wouldn't say it officially kicked off, but to me it like kicked off like a big downswing I went through. And like I will say this, like before I before and after that match I've never studied poker. I never had a subscription. I never had a coach. I've never looked at it. Like I think one time like Upswing Poker sent me an email, and was like, "Oh, download some free pre-flop ranges." And I opened it and I couldn't figure out what the charts meant, so I just got rid of it. Okay. And like I learned how to play poker by watching live streams, like by watching Garrett crush people in live with the bike, by watching Art crush Garrett, by watching Ludacris crush like not you Art Papazian, you know,
No, we
Good art, yeah.
you know,
I
got
watched
it.
like watching
Different art,
Ludacris
P.
like crush whales on Tuesdays. Like I just watched by I learned by watching, right? And I had always like played poker from the heart, like just what I think is correct based on what I've watched and what I've seen work and doesn't work and like my reads and like I'm a big believer in like, hey, listen, that guy's sitting there with 200K and he is not willing to put in 200K, but he bought in to try to look cool on stream. So I'm all in. Like I've done that a million times on stream where like I just ripped it all in on someone for like an egregious, you know, amount compared to the pot just because like I'm like this guy's like he's just trying to look cool, you know, he just doesn't actually want to put the money in, you know, and like I've been wrong sometimes and they put it in and it's annoying, but like then you know they don't put it in again the next time because now they have double the amount. But anyways, like I was always you know, and it worked, and it's true. That's the way to play live poker is you don't need to fucking study ranges, you just need to understand people. And you know, I went to this Berkey thing and I you know, I played some heads up leading into this. Like I had played Blink Check Ben heads up one session after Hustler, where that was the day I lost like an 800K pot to him playing heads up, where he like made uh quads versus my top boat. Um, and we played heads up after that, and I ended up losing like 50K for the day. And I so like I have some experience with heads up, and I was like, you know, I can play, like it's fine, like whatever. And so you know, we come to tournaments to play this match, and Ishan, you know, my buddy Ishan Brambala, he's a very good heads up player. Plays online. He's played like button clicker and you know, top heads up players online. He's played them online and beaten them, and he's very good. Okay, and I was just like, Ishan, I'm playing a total idiot. I don't need to do any prep. Like this guy has no chance, right? And he's like, Nick, like let's just do some practice sessions, right? I was like, okay, fine. You want me to fuck on some people just to prove to you that I'm gonna fuck on them? Okay. So I jump on. I play this guy the very first practice session, I remember this vividly. I was in Palm Springs and we played $1, $2, and I lost 20K. And I was doing the math, and I was like, if I lost 20K at $1, $2 in a one
This is over.
at 200, 400, that's gonna be 4 million in one session. And I was like, or whatever the answer is, you know. I was like, this is maybe like an issue. So then I got kind of like worried because of this, and I think this was a mistake, to be honest. I think you know that day, like I definitely played not the best. I definitely ran not the best, and I also was playing 1-2. You know, whatever.
Nah, it's tough to take it serious.
Tough to take it serious, right? But I think that kind of like created a little bit of a panic in me, and so I was like, okay, let's do coaching. So I hired a bunch of coaches. I think throughout the match, I probably spent over 100K on coaching.
Jeez.
I like downloaded all the best software, you know, solvers, everything. I probably spent 8 hours a day doing coaching with someone and like 4 hours a day playing and doing review with Ishan. Like it was very in depth. And it just completely fucked me up. Like and like this is not to say that coaching isn't good, but it just like I wasn't playing
Fucked up
poker.
your game.
Yeah, I wasn't playing poker. I was spending so much time focused on like what would the coach like if I did something I wouldn't be thinking like I wouldn't be trying to play. I'd be like trying to do what I know will make the coaches happy when I send them the hand.
Justin
And
has actually a good piece about this. I mean, much lower stakes, but every time about the poker books, every time you would try to implement a new thing, you would just like lose money.
Right. And like super is like a dumbed down version of it, but like every time, like I hate to compare myself to you or whatever, but like it's like every time I try to get good at poker the traditional way, I would go on a massive downswing for 3 to 4 months because I would try to like apply these things that didn't make sense to me.
And I think it's kind of like golf. Like when you make a swing change, like at least for me, like when I try to make a swing change, like my first 20 rounds were just dust. Like I just couldn't play. And then eventually like it would work and then I'd be playing much better. I think it's kind of like that with poker where it's like, especially like with the heads up, like it's so technical and stuff. Like as I was trying to make big strategical changes and different big like shifts in how I approached the game, like I was struggling to do it while playing like massive high heads up game against someone who I had like a really big dislike for. So there was some emotional aspect of it. Like I remember like the first day of like so going into the match, like I started doing some study, but nothing crazy. And then the first day we played, I was down, I think 400 or something, and I ended up losing like 20K. But I almost lost 400 that day. And the only reason I didn't lose 400 is because we played some fucking insane hand right at the end of the session because I was covering him, right? Where I had like 3 bet or maybe 4 bet him with Queen Jack, and it came like ace 9 6, and I bet, and the turn was a king, and I bet, and the river was a 10, and I shoved
Hit
all
it.
in for
Yeah.
like 7x pot. And like part of the shove all in was like I had been like I in my coaching they had told me like, oh, like, when you have when you can have the nuts and he can't, like, just you can just go all in. So I was like, yeah, I can have the queen jack and he can't. I happen to have it, so I was like, went all in. And obviously he had a set of sixes, and he called me after like a 7 minute tank, and like got to throw it in his face, which was amazing. But after that, I was like, oh shit, like, maybe this is a little too, like, like, should be down 400,000 the first day. Like, that seems a little bit much. And so I really committed to the studying, and it just fucked me up pretty hard. And like, I worked with Doug too, like, in the second half, and man, Doug is so smart. Like, his poker mind is insane, and like he gave me so much information, but like to execute on it and to like to do it all in the moment was just too much for me. And I think all of that in combination with definitely running bad was a pretty brutal result. And then I think that led to like a lot of like lack of confidence. And so like the perspective there was like before the Berkey match, I had played the $1 million game. And the first two sessions I had played, I was net up like 600. Okay. And I was like pretty happy. And the third session I played was the final day where Wesley and Tom played that $3 million pot. And I didn't want to play that day. And I don't remember why exactly. It was some amount was like the lineup was tougher. Some amount was just like I was kind of like satisfied to having like booked a win. But for a variety of reasons, I ended up playing and I lost 1 million. I remember feeling really gross about that or whatever. I do the Berkey thing, lose 1 million there, and like that kind of like shattered my confidence. Like I had played so much poker for so long, just on confidence, basically, just like believing in myself. Like I would come play 100, 200, I'd be stuck 200K, and I'd be like, I'm going to unstuck and win, and I would win 200, and like I just like was able to lock in and battle and be confident, and I lost a lot of that in the Berkey stuff. And like that led to like a big downswing. That was when I went on like that the public, like I called it like $8 million downswing. I include the $1 million game, and the cheated games were included in that. Now, obviously, maybe it's 6.5 because 1.5 was cheated or whatever, right? But like I lost a lot of confidence, and like it took me a long time to kind of regain that confidence. I don't think I ever kind of got the confidence back to where I was, and I think to some extent that's good. Like I think like I was so confident at it for a given stretch that like it was probably like a bad thing, but that was like a very challenging thing to overcome. Like I remember, one thing too that was interesting about the Berkey thing was because like at the time, like at least my impression was it was kind of like the center of the poker world for like a month. Like it felt like that was kind of like a majority of the conversation on social medias, and like there's 2 videos with hand reviews, like everything is just like it felt like to me like there was a lot of talk about that. And like during that stretch, like after I lost, I kind of found out some people who weren't my friends, and some people who like, I kind of figured out who my friends were, and that was kind of an interesting period too. And so like there was just a lot of like, I guess I would say like turmoil that kind of came with that whole thing. And yeah, I mean, I think overall for myself personally, it's a good thing I lost, because I think like it helped me a lot with like kind of like what I said, like learning who my friends are. It also kind of humbled me a lot and like forced me to kind of like rebuild or whatever and stuff, which was good. But it was also like very emotionally challenging and draining. And I remember like I even remember like Ishan is very like cool, calm, and collected. Okay, like he just doesn't like really get emotional. Like kind of like how like we work is like I get fucking fired up about something, and he like tells me like chill the fuck out, it's fine, kind of thing, right? And I remember like after I lost to Berkey, like I got felted the last hand, like I flop a set in like a 3 or 4 bet pot, and he turns a bigger set, and we get it in, and he stacks me, right? And like GG shook his hand, congratulated him. That was important to me to be like, a good loser or whatever, because like I don't know, I just like think it's important to be a good loser. Shook his hand and walked out. I remember we're at the airport, and like there was like some spaces running, and like it felt like every single human being in poker was in there. And I remember like Ishan was listening to it, and I was just like, I don't want to listen, because like they're all just like celebrating my death, right? And I was like, I just don't want to listen. And I remember Ishan like jumped on there, and like Garrett was in there talking shit about me, and Ishan got fucking fired up, and he was just like at the airport, he was just like motherfucking him on the thing, like whatever. And I was just like, yeah, like it's the first time the roles were reversed or whatever. And I was like, bro, it's fine. Like, let them celebrate. Like let them talk shit. Like we'll be back. Like it's okay, kind of thing. And so yeah, it was just like it was interesting, and like I don't know. It was a tough
I'd
period.
like to. I'd like to see Sean fired up. We played a decent chunk of poker with him, and he's like,
It's too cool.
yeah,
He's
he's
too cool.
he's
I
the
remember like
stoic emoji.
I remember like
Yeah.
so, like I take Sean like everywhere I can with me because like he's my buddy. And like we went to the lodge a couple times, and like the first like 2 trips, he just smashed them. Like I think he won like 1 million total. Like he just smashed them, right? And the whole time he's there, he's just like winning every pot, owning people, and he's just like like doing his laugh, right? And all the regs at the lodge who we played with are just like this fucking guy. Like they're telling me like Nick, don't bring this fucking guy around again. Like he's such a fucking annoying person when he's winning. And like the third trip we go, and he just gets his face like obliterated. Like he loses every pot, and he's just the whole time he's just like the regs are just like, okay, fair enough. Like, when he dies, he's still just like the same guy. I'm like, yeah, dude. Like he's just us. So
Yeah, at his funeral, his obituary is gonna be.
literally is. I mean, it's so fucking funny. But yeah, I think like you know, that like period with Berkey and stuff was obviously tough, but like it was good to get through it and learn and stuff. And I think like my biggest takeaway from that, to be honest, was that I only want to play poker with people I like because that heads up match, like obviously it sucked to lose and stuff, but also it was just like I just like was miserable like while we were playing because I was just like sitting in a room with someone I really dislike for like 8 hours or 6 hours, or whatever. I can't remember the session length at a time, and just like had so much of my mental being taken up by someone I don't like that like I just realized that like it doesn't matter how juicy someone is or what, like I'm just never gonna play unless like I want to be with the people I'm playing with and hang out with them. And like I don't care if like the games are worse than my average game. Like I mean, like the table one game that I played with you guys, like it's probably worse than my average game pretty significantly, but I really like the group. I am like happy to lose to anyone there basically. Like the social environment's great, and like that's why I'm happy to play every time I'm in town. And like I think that to me is like a big like has been a big change, is like I'm focusing on like playing with people I like and when I want to play and making sure that it's fun for myself, not just like a miserable thing. So
Well, my one suggestion would, if you would try losing in that game, that'd be terrific.
He did try that one time. He lost like 100K in like 20 minutes, and then he still ended up eking out a win in a 5,100 game. Like, buddy, I think you. What's the game where you lost? You got. I feel like you doubled up every single person at the table, and then you stacked Matt Moore like 6 or 7 times.
Yeah. I remember that. I literally doubled up. I was stuck like 150. I was fuming, and I murdered Matt. I just kept stacking every hand. Like I get in bad one time, I'm gonna win. I get in good one time and win. It was just like it was a dream.
Yeah, I think everybody had a good time that session except for Matt. Interesting. You weren't having a good time for a while, but eventually you
Yeah,
did.
it turned. Yeah. No, I mean, I think like, those kind of games are a little bit dangerous for me because I don't know how to explain this, but like getting stuck in like a smaller game is way more tilting to me than getting stuck in a bigger game. Like even if the dollar amount's bigger. But so like it's dangerous because like I can get like if I'm stuck 50, like I'll just feel like really irritated with myself. But I'm also having much more fun, you know what I mean, overall. And like I don't know, the environment's good, and so I don't like it doesn't bother me as much. So it's like this weird like pendulum of like tilt and like joy that's like going back and forth kind of thing. And yeah, I mean I'm trying to just enjoy poker more, especially like the smaller stuff or the more friendly stuff. Like because like I come to have a good time, not to like win, like when I'm playing a lot of those games. Like I'm not trying to earn while I'm there. I'm just trying to have fun and like joke around and like yeah, I want to stack everyone and win, but I also just like it's not really my primary goal. The primary goal is just to have fun.
Just a quick break here, guys. Are you tired of playing with players like this? Not this.
No.
Like this? Or this?
Or do you want to play with players like this?
Oh wait, if you like having fun at the poker table, Table 1 is the game for you. We play high stakes, no limit, 100 blinds. And if you want to get into the game, it's actually super easy. We have a website, table1.vegas. You just go to the website, you click get a seat in the game, and fill out the form. It's that easy. It's your name, it's your phone number, it's the date that you're here, and I will personally reach out to you.
And it's only 5K minimum buy-in. Run it up at 2.5 and join us.
Yeah, it's got to be hard to relate to, but like for anyone listening, like imagine your normal game is 2.5 and you go to a 25 cent, 50 cent game. and like you get stacked a few times and all of a sudden you're down your normal $500 and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna get this back, and then you're like, oh, that's 10 buy-ins. Like,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I guess I'm not gonna get it back. But we'll try. We'll see what happens.
It's fun. It's fun. I really don't. I think for me, like in particular with like those kind of situations, if I don't mind losing to the players, then I don't mind. You know, like there's some people who I just don't like rags who I don't want to lose to in games because it's just like a black hole and I don't think they deserve to like win my money kind of thing. Where it's just like, you're not doing the right things, you're not, helping the game and like being good for the game and like kind of whatever. You're just trying to like be zero sum. And I think like for those kind of people, I don't really want to lose to them. But I feel like when people aren't zero sum, because like I'm really not zero sum with how I play poker and stuff, like if I'm crushing someone and like they want, like the other day I was playing a guy heads up online, okay, and I was crushing him, like I was up a lot, and so I straddled all in for like he was buying in 60,000. I just straddled all in, like I think like 10 hands in a row, just to give him action because I was just like I feel bad, like I'm just killing this guy, he's never gonna win, like I'll just give him the action. And so like I just did that, and like so like to me like when there's professional poker players who like get it and like give action and like gamble and stuff, like I never mind losing to them, and I think like you know, I appreciate when they have the right attitude or whatever. And so that's kind of how I approach it in like the smaller games or whatever you want to call them.
Damn right, man. I mean,
Yeah.
except for the smaller games part, it's big to some of us. But
Yeah. I mean,
No, fair enough. Fair enough. No, I understand what you're saying. Like it's.
I mean, those are the 50-100 is a big game. Like you can win or lose 50,000. Like that's a big game. It just
Can
doesn't
you
feel big.
Can you?
definitely lose it.
I've definitely lost it.
In theory, you can win it as well.
Oh, okay. Theory. Okay, good. We're back to theory.
Practice, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The thing about poker too, that's interesting is like, especially high stakes. Like I feel like there's been so much inflation in high stakes. Like I feel like
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I'm still like pretty new to poker. Like I've only been playing high stakes a couple years, but I feel like when I started, like 100, 200 was like a big game. Like it didn't run that often. When it did, it was like a big game. And now like 100, 200 just feels like okay. Like I'll just play some 100, 200 to burn some time. You know what I mean? Like, which is kind of weird. And like, there's been so much inflation in the game that like, it only feels like it's like for real if it's so nuclear that you can die at any given day. And like, it's just like kind of funny how that's worked. I mean, I'll tell you guys, this summer I hosted a game this summer in Vegas. We
I
played
think I remember you called it the nuclear game.
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it was nuclear war. So like Santosh basically had reached out to me. Santosh is like the best for poker game. He is happy to play, wants to play big, like great attitude, like his money is like solid. He's not going to scam anyone. Like he wants to play long sessions. Like he's just great. And he reached out to me. He was like, "Can you organize a game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." Like, Santosh wants to play. Like, I can get together a great game. And so, like, me and Professor and Charles, and Santosh and a couple other guys played every day all summer. Okay? And we just played way too big. Like, we played 2,000, 4,000, and we started off at $300,000 minimum, for PLO, which is like kind of like usually big PLO games. Like, for example, like I think like one of the most common PLO games that runs in Vegas is a 300, 500 game, and the buy-in's 15K. So usually in PLO, like the buy-ins are smaller, so you can gamble, and because you have to kind of put the money in. But for whatever reason, there was a couple other VIPs who were like they wanted to fuck, so we played 300K min, and I mean, I can't explain to you the amount of like blood that was on the felt. Like people were just winning and losing 2 million like in an hour. Like it was just so bloody. It was so insane, and like I remember like played this like every day, right? And then like one day, me and one of the players from the game, Humboldt Mike, who's played on Poker Go, and I think you guys have met him too. We went back to Aria, and there was the bigger the Keating game was running at table one. So for those who don't know out there, like table one basically has two games that run, like Art and JY's game, which is like 50-100 ish, and then Keating's game, which is like 200-400 ish. Plays bigger sometimes, plays smaller as all games do. And I remember this day we got there and like it was playing like 248, and I dusted like 200,000 in like no joke 30 minutes, and I just quit because I realized the issue was like the game didn't feel serious. Like you know what I mean? I was like, I'm just like blasting off like 50K buy-ins or whatever because they don't feel like buy-ins. They just feel like free bets. Like
They're antes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
yeah, like it's like they feel like a straddle. Like we were playing so big, people were straddling 100. Like someone's winning 3 million right in the session, so they put the 100K straddle on for like 20 minutes straight. It's like like it just like kind of ruined other poker for me temporarily. And so that was like so funny. It was just like playing that game, and I think like I think basically broke even throughout the summer for people wondering,
Plus or minus $1 million.
yeah, something like that. It
Rounding
was like,
error.
yeah, it was stupid. Like the game was so big, and I mean, don't get me wrong, it was really fun, but I think like it was a little too big, a little too bloody, for a lot of people. And I think the key with like high stakes games is finding a balance between being really big and also not sending people to the poker hospital.
Yeah.
Because like it's not like any of the people we're playing with can like go bust for the most part. Like there's a couple guys who are like gamblers and whatever, right? But mostly it's guys who can, have hundreds of millions and like can afford it. But at the same time, like it doesn't matter how much money you have. If you dust like enough in the poker game, you're just gonna be like, ew, I need a break. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like that's what's gonna happen. And so like, I think we played a little too big this summer. And so finding a happy medium between like a game that's big and means something to everyone, but also like not too big where we're just gonna cause people to like not want to play. Like, I mean, like I'll say this, like, because people know him, like Charles played, Charles is, well off. And Charles plays big. Like Charles played a lot of really big games. And we played a session where, Charles was, I think, like this is like the first week. Charles was like up $1 million and change. And then he ended up that session down 1.4. And then after the session, he was just like, this is a little too big. And he called it a summer. And we were just like, maybe the game's too big, but then there were other guys who like we couldn't adjust it for because they had lost too much already and had to let them play.
Yeah. You can't go backwards. You either
Yeah,
stay the same
that
or
was
go
the
up. Yeah.
yeah, and so it was very challenging to manage that throughout the summer. I mean, I'll tell you another funny story about that. Like there was this guy, he's like a billionaire, okay? He has like multiple private jets and everything. He plays big poker games with us. And he's great for the game. He's like likes to have fun, he's good action, whatever, right? And I see him in Aria, and I'm like, hey man, like we're playing an MGM, like, all of our buddies are there, like, because we all play in the same circle, like you should come join us one day. And he's like, tell me about the game, like what's it like? And so I told him, and I was like, yeah, you probably swing like 1 to 2 million a session, whatever. And he was like, I'm good, man. Like that's a little too big. Like I'm happy to swing 500 a session or whatever. And I was just like, oh fuck, this game's too big when this guy's just telling me like, yeah, it's too big. Like that's how you
You,
know it's
you
too
just
big.
priced out like, wow.
The richest guy in the room got
Yeah.
priced out. He's like, my gambling budget. What's $20 to you? That's my
Yeah.
gambling budget.
Wow.
Exactly. So that was funny, and like I think that was like a good lesson too. Is just like when you're building a game, you need to build something that's more sustainable. Like in stakes, even if it's not your ideal stakes or a certain player's ideal stakes.
I think I agree with that. There was a time where there was no private games in Vegas and we were just playing 10-20 and like we would play 10-20-40 on the weekends. And then like if the right people got stuck, we would play 10-20-40 all week. And then like we wouldn't have a game for a week because 10-20-40 was just too big for the local people. So speaking of inflation, those were the big games back then.
It was.
And like, I mean, at least in my experience in the last 2 years, like the only games that still run now that ran 2 years ago when I started consistently are the games where they have a certain stake they play and they don't go up. Like we play 51 and that's what we play. Like, sure, you can straddle or we can do rounds of straddles or whatever, but we're not coming here to play 1-2 or 2-4 or whatever. Like we're playing 51, that's the game. And like you might lose $1 million tomorrow in the game, and I'm sorry, it's gonna be 51 the next day. Like that is what it is. Like we're not gonna change it, And I think that's like a really sustainable model, is like making sure you're playing a stake that everyone can play every day, even if it's a little bit sometimes challenging with like certain players to explain to them that, hey, we're not going to adjust it.
No, that's fair. And like even the win, I think came out like a month ago, said that they're not allowing straddles on their
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
Like, no
like which
straddle.
which at first I was like, that's bullshit, that's fucked up, like blah blah blah. And then like I started thinking more about it. I was like, actually, they probably they're on to something. I think like it's like whatever. If you're on the list and you're a recreational player and you're on the list for a 10-20 game, you don't want to like sit down to a 10-20-40 game. Like like you just want to sit around and gamble for an hour or two. Like it's
Yeah, most gamblers, we sign up for the game that like is at the top end of our budget when we're in
correct.
Vegas.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly
then
right.
and then it's like, oh, now it's double.
And I think that was like an issue with Hustler for like a long period, the stream, and obviously it didn't really matter too much back then, but I think it's kind of become like you can see the issue now, is that like the games weren't never what they were advertised to be. Like Friday would be advertised as 100, 200, and we'd be playing 200, 400, 800 within like an hour. And I think like for a lot of people, like they don't, they come once and they like, oh, I'm playing 100, 200, I'm bringing 50K. Reasonable, right? And then all of a sudden you have your whole entire 50K on the table and you have 50 big blinds.
Right.
Not
Then you get two jacks and someone puts you in and you're like, The
Yeah,
fuck is
and
going
then
on right
you
now?
get 2 jacks, I put you all in with ace-7 off, and I'm tilted, so I'm like, run it once, and I stack the guy, and he's
Yeah.
never gonna come back, right? And like that's kind of like not that great. Like is it good for me in the moment? Sure, but it's not that great for like the overall ecosystem and getting games and stuff. And I think like being like transparent with what you're playing is really important. And like that's me. I've worked hard on doing like when I run games is like, hey man, we're playing 500-1,000, but like to be honest, it's gonna be 5-1-2-4 every single hand. So just know that, like, you know what I mean. And like if you don't want to play, don't play or whatever, right? But like being honest with people, I think is good. And like same thing with like lineups. Like I think like a lot of private games, like in fact, I was talking to a couple guys yesterday. So I was invited to a private game like yesterday and in LA, which I couldn't go to. And they sent me the lineup, and I saw like two of the names, and two of the names were guys like I'm really close to, who are like big action players. And I knew for a fact that both of them are in Vegas. So I texted them and I was like, "Hey, are you guys coming to this?" Because I was like, if they are, maybe I'll fly back down to play with them. They're my really good friends, right? And they were both like, "LOL, no, we said we're not coming." Like, but the game runner's just like advertising them, you know, or
Right,
whatever.
right, right.
Like,
They're clickbait. Yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm
that's
just like,
super
I'm not a fan
common.
of
The
it.
other thing with the fake stakes is common, and we took a lot of shit for having Nick Bertucci on, and obviously he's got his own issues with people, but that was one of his points that I took away from the whole interaction was just like, yeah, we're gotta go back to sustainability because not only do we jade our audience with like a giant stake game where it's like, whoa, this is awesome. We got everybody, Tom Dwan and Jungle Man and whatever, and Airball playing 501k. And then like we have this other guy coming in who's like normally likes to play 1-2 to your point, and like all of a sudden it's 1-2-4-8,
Yeah.
1600.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't play again for 3 months. So
Yeah.
it's there's an equation there where it's, I mean, it's tough as game runners, and you've been running games too yourself, and just like everything is in flux, but it's almost always better to kind of, if the game is at least reasonable stakes, like just run it at that. And like, I don't
Yeah.
know, you don't have to exactly tell people not to straddle, but like if it's a round of straddles and somebody
Yeah.
needs backup, like saying I don't want to straddle, then
And
as the
it's-
game runner you can be like, oh yeah, me either, like
I mean,
let's
like
not
I try.
straddle.
I think I try to do that. Like this is something I used to like be really bad at, and like I can like I actually used to talk to Nick Bertucci about this. Like he kind of like I said, almost like lecture me, and he was in the right. Like in the moment, I didn't realize it, but in hindsight, I could. Which was that like I was kind of like the captain of the Wednesday Friday games at Hustler for a long time, which are like the bigger games. And like we would start, and I'd be like, "Straddle's on, let's go." Like I don't want to play 51. I want to play 151-2. I don't want to play 1-2. I want to play 1-2-4. Right? Like Straddle's on, let's go. And like, why did I want that? Because I wanted to play bigger. I thought I had more edge when we played bigger because like I was playing less scared. Like I thought like, I knew the other guys maybe they brought 100K, and like when that they want to play the whole stream, and like when that 100K can be in risk faster, like I can get away with more shit, like whatever. It was good for me, right? And also like I thought it was better for like the TV and whatever. But Nick was kind of would explain telling me like it's bad for the player pool, and I didn't really get that, and now I really get it. Like I mean, now when I go to a game, for example, like when I come to yours, like I try to straddle every single time it's my turn to straddle because I want to play big and gamble, but I also will never ask anyone else to straddle except
Right.
like Ishan or maybe like one of you guys because like I don't feel uncomfortable asking. But like I'll never ask the recreational players. I'll never ask the guys I don't know because I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I don't want to make like come in as like and make the game too big for people, or like I don't want like you guys to have some guy who's good for the game and I come in, I'm like, let's play bigger or whatever, and then he doesn't want to come in the future because he's worried the game might be too big. Like so like I think like it's important like to always like keep that in mind and make sure the games can be sustainable because at the end of the day, like the worst thing that can happen is no action. Like so I think like I remember like I saw something like JRB said one time ago, and they're like, "What's your like worst nightmare?" And he's like, "My worst nightmare is just not being in action." And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" Like I can imagine
That
anything
is
worse
good.
than not being in action. Like just you gotta have action, you know.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like last night at like 3 in the morning, all the games like my online games that I have available to me like broke. Like they weren't running, and I just texted Sean. And I was like, "Man, this is hell." Like,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
this is a famous quote, but like the best thing about gambling is gambling and winning, and the second thing and best thing about gambling is gambling and losing because at least
yeah.
you're in fucking action.
Yeah, you
So,
gotta be active. I mean, I don't know. I love gambling and I love like the swing and the sweat and the social and everything, and it's like super fun. But yeah, it's a dangerous world to say the least. And I think like I was actually thinking about this the other day. Like, if you think about like TV poker, okay, like streams and TV poker, and you look at it like let's say over like a 10 years period, like the people who played 10 years ago and the people who play now, it's like completely different. And if you look at the people who played 5 years ago now, completely different. 1 year ago and now, completely different. Like it just cycles so fast. People come and go so fast. Like burn out fast. Recreational players lose too much and have to be done. Like all sorts of stuff. Just it happens quick. And I think like being able to be around for a while in the gambling world is like a big skill, and it's something like I pride myself on. Is like being around, and like I think people who have been around for a long time like have a lot of wisdom in that, and like especially like playing the big games, you know like whenever I get a chance to be like around Andrew Roble, for example, like I just think that guy's just like a complete crusher of everything. Like he's played the big games forever. He's obviously crushed them forever. He's run big games forever. Everyone like trusts him. Like he has a great reputation. Like, he also just like seems like he has his life together in the sense that like he doesn't have to play poker that often and he's still satisfied. Like he finds other ways to fulfill himself, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just like, man, that's kind of like that's like the dream, like he's doing it right. And so like whenever I'm around people like that, like I always kind of want to try to like learn from them and like get some knowledge from them and stuff. And like, yeah, it's a tough world to be in, like it's tough.
Tough way to
And
make
like
it easy living. Is that the that's the
I've heard it
statement?
before.
Yeah.
All right.
And the amount
Well,
of times like I've thought to myself like after like dusting like a big number or a series of big numbers, it's like I should just quit, like I should just stop. But I can just never stop, like it's just like one day later you're like I'm ready to go again, ready to get unstuck, ready to win, So
Sure.
well, speaking of big numbers, before we sign off here fully and figure out the ending of this podcast, this podcast is big on gambling stories. And knowing you and the people you run with, I know you might have at least a pinky nail of a story, maybe a couple in the chamber that you might be able to fire off here. So give us a solid gambling story, take us down the road of Nik Arcot and tell us some shit. Make someone say, wow. Give us something for the thumbnail.
Yeah. Take your
I mean,
time.
I guess I can tell some like 6 spin ups and some 6 spin downs or just like funny stuff. I'll give a couple. Like, so like a lot of them are from PLO. Like I remember, like when you play PLO, like the dream is like you spin it up, right? Like you can buy in for a bullet and spin it up. So like we played poker with this guy and one second, I got to bluff Charles here. And
back in the app, we
I sat
have
back
a
here.
mid-session lull here.
I couldn't help myself.
You were talking too much.
You know what? Just give us a hand here.
Yeah.
Just next time you're in a
Just shut on there.
just play it live for the audience here.
So like there's this guy we play poker with, okay, and I won't say his name, but he's like a gambler, young kid, okay, and true gambler. These guys who like they have 100K, they put it on the table, they're gonna dust it, they're trying to figure out we rebuild, right? So we play with him, and he basically like just dusts it all, and he has 5K left in his stack, and we're playing 500,000 or 1,000, 2,000 PLO. Well, over the course of 2 weeks, he runs that 5K back to like 700. But over the course of 2 weeks, he runs it to like 6 million. Okay.
Jesus.
Well,
Like
like 2 weeks later, he dusted it all.
I even more like this guy.
Like that, I've seen that a bunch of times. Like, let me think. Oh, I'll give a really good Humboldt Mike story. So we're playing PLO. This is like this is a PLO story. I'll tell it. So we're playing PLO and we're playing, and the game's like, it's 300, 500 or something. It's like more reasonable. And the game's been going for like 2 days straight, literally 2 days straight. Like we're like on hour 50 or whatever, and this guy strolls in and he's drunk and he's ready to gamble. And so he buys in for 100 and he straddles it all in for 100. And at this point, like I was exhausted, right? So I think I was like even for the session after being buried. So I was like, fuck, this is too nuclear. I need to go sleep. So I quit the game, which is like insane. But I was just like, I quit it. And everyone just thought it was hilarious. And like when the game got super juice, I just had enough. But I was just too tired. Okay. So I quit. Well, Humboldt stays there. Humboldt runs his stack to over 1 million. Then he's like feeling bad because he's killing everyone. So he starts straddling his whole stack all in.
Wow.
Well, he obviously loses back to stack and he's back on dust, like 20K. He runs it back up to 1.1 million. And then he plays over the course of the next hour, like $2 million pots. And in both of them, he loses to one pair in PLO. That's the funniest thing ever. Like you just like I mean like, you play PLO and like people put in like these big pots usually and like people have huge hands. And he just kept like guys both just kept turning over one pair and like it was always the nuts. And, like it was big that
We're like,
just,
no, you win. No, you win. No, seriously, you win. No, I only have one pair. Yeah, me too. Which one?
what's
Sevens?
funny?
Oh fuck, I got nines.
It's hard to lose on accident even
Yeah.
to one
First
pair.
time I like played like some big PLO for me was like we were playing like 10-20, okay? I just at the bike. And what had happened was we were playing like a full 5-5 game, and then it got shorter handed, we picked to 5-10, and then we picked to 10-20 because there was this one guy who was like, ready to lose maybe 100K or whatever, right? He had the chips with him. And we finally played this, it's like three-handed at like 7 a.m., right? And because I don't like when the games are good, I don't quit. So it was like three-handed at 7 a.m. and we're playing like 20-40 now or whatever, right? And the flop comes and I can't remember exactly what it was. Maybe like Jack 8-5, okay? And I had on Jack 8-5, I had like Ace 10 9-7, okay? Just like sexy rap, right? Like pot and repot, 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 repot. We're all in each, okay? And it's like a 30K pot. And that was like massive, right? And Jack 7-5 or whatever, Jack 8-5, and one guy turns over the Queen 10 9-7.
Oh no, that's bad.
Oh, God.
Oh no,
The
you
other
win with
guy
ace
turns
high. Oh
over
no.
the 10-9-7-6 for the lower, so like I'm
Yeah.
just stone cold no out
You're-
dead.
You can't win.
You need deuce.
And it just, we run it once and it just comes board pair. And I'm like, yeah, I lose. Take it. And they're like, yeah, we lose. Take it. And no one can turn over their hand. And no joke, it took like 4 minutes for anyone to turn over their hand. Because we were all just like mad at the other people. We are like, stop slow rolling. Just like, holy fucking shit. Like,
Yeah,
hurry the
sixes
fuck
are
up.
good.
And then finally, like after like no joke 4 minutes, I had enough. And I was like, I'm out of here. And I just slammed over ace high. And I got up to leave. And they both just mucked their hands. And I was like, what?
There you go. That's fucking good right there.
It was so funny because that was a great one. I'm trying to think of what else.
Jeez, that's a good one.
I'll tell a good story from a live stream actually. The people don't know the background, I guess. So like like 2 years ago, I played this hand button clicker on Hustler. I played two hands of interest with him. One was I flopped a nut flush and he backdoored a full house, and I bet like 55,000 on the river. He made like 120 or whatever, 150, and I folded. I found a fold, right? And then we played another hand later in the session where like I 3-bet 4-5 suited out of position, and it came 7-6-3, and he had a set of sevens, and I like stack him in like an 800K pot. And at the time, when we were all in and like the pot was like 800K, my net worth was like 850K. Like I just had like 95% of my net worth on the table, and I remember I was sitting there and we turned the hands over, and I just remember like I closed my eyes, took a deep breath for a second. Like you can see it in the video, and like I'm trying to play it cool, but I was fucking shitting bricks because like I asked him at one point, I was like, "Oh, this is the biggest pot you ever played?" He's like, "Yeah," and I'm thinking to myself like, "Fuck, this is my net worth that I'm playing for." Like that was like a hilarious fucking day. Like I just remember that so vividly. Like we're all in, and I remember like we're waiting for them to deal the rivers, and I was just thinking to myself, man, like are they really gonna slow roll me here for all of it? Like, oh, that was so fun and so stressful. I scooped, obviously. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a story.
Otherwise, you'd be working for Morgan Stanley right now.
100%. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's like so many like crazy moments. It's like hard to explain. Like it's just like the stupidity that happens, the gambling that happens. Like it's truly like a world of its own. Here, I'll show you guys. I'm all in here with the
Oh,
Queen,
hell
King Jack 4-3 against on that board.
What?
9-7-5. Kind of a dusty
Oh,
situation.
play money. I got it. It's a play money.
Yeah.
game.
This is not good to teach Art how to play PLO, by the way.
He folded.
We
Oh,
were blind versus blind. We limp called and open, and he donked and he folded. Thank God.
Okay.
I'm not very good at PLO.
I guess that could have been the only way for him to win. It didn't look like many of his cards matched out there.
well, that's the key of PLO. You either want to have all your matching cards or none of your matching cards.
Listen, I'll tell you guys what. I love Hold'em. It's the best game ever, but lately all I play is PLO. And it kind of sucks, but all the big games these days are PLO. And it is what it is, so
Yeah.
PLO.
That's life in the big city.
Yeah, we do it in our game. Yeah, that's good.
All right, so I feel like we've run our. Sorry, viewers, we've hit enough gambling stories with Airball. We're all out. What's future Airball doing? You're gonna how do people invite you to their apps? You know, like how do they reach out to
Well, I tell everyone this: if you want to contact me, you don't know me, DM me Sean because he's my filter.
There you go. That's beautiful.
If you reach out to me, I will just never respond. If you reach out to me, Sean, and you pass the filter, he will tell me, and we will talk. Like,
Okay,
I
so when you're in town, I should just text Ishan about the game.
100%.
Okay. I always wonder why you never respond till the next day.
No, I always get shocked when he texts me out of the blue. I'm like, what? Is this the wrong number? Does he think I'm a different person right now? This is nice though.
I try, but I've staked people from Twitter. I'm going through Sean. Like, I've come to private games that someone DM'd Sean. He's like, Nick, you could actually enjoy this one or whatever. But also, there's great stories. Like, Sean told me the other day, like, we were talking about something, and I was like, oh, like, I heard about this game that was going, and he's like, oh yeah, they invited you. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, no, they didn't. And he was like, no, they invited you. Like, they talked to me. And I was like, why don't you tell me? He's like, oh, I told them that you wouldn't come play and he gave me the reason. And I was like, oh yeah, good call. I wouldn't have gone. I was like.
Oh, we all need to Ishan in our lives.
We do.
Ishan keeps me from going bust. I probably would for sure be busted.
He's the best. Ishan almost. I was gonna pay Ishan to build a game management system for us because he was working on. I don't know if it's public knowledge, but he was working on it for some stream game to Hustler. Okay, I didn't know if you wanted people to know, but yeah, he was working on some system to basically invite players, and players could ask the lineup, and they could just schedule themselves basically. And I was like, man, he's actually pretty sharp, computer programmer. He's not just some rich guy's assistant. So,
I mean, I will say this, like, I think poker is like a really individualistic pursuit. Like, it's you, yourself, your bankroll, your gamble, whatever, But I think, like, for me in particular, like, having like a really close friend like Ishan who I can trust, who's like watching out for me without having a monetary like upside. Like, I'm sure he definitely has done well because of our friendship, I think, but I don't think our friendship happened because he thought he could do well, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think, like, for me, like, having someone who like I can fully trust, and like I've sent like big numbers of money to Ishan, and like I have no fear. Like, he knows where all my private keys are. Like, I basically, like, if I were to drop dead tomorrow, like, he would help my wife with all the money and stuff. Like, he has everything, and like, for me, like, I've been really lucky to have like a friendship like that. And I think like it's been a really big like aspect of my success is just like having someone who like has my best interest at heart, watches out for me, like, whatever, in a lot of ways. And obviously I do the same for him. And like, I think like for up and coming poker players out there, whatever, I would say like finding someone who you can trust, who is kind of like in that same grind as you. Yeah, exactly. Like, you can kind of go through it with the ups and downs. Like, when I'm going through like a downswing, like, he's there with me, and vice versa. Like, when he's going through a downswing, I'm there with him. And like, I think that's been like pretty much like, okay, so I limp called the king, queen, jack 6 dust, and it came jack 7 6, and I'm all, he probably has aces.
Well, that's good for you.
He has aces. I'm 72%.
We can't see anything.
I it twice.
Of course.
I won the first.
We need to see more than you need to see.
Scoopa!
Scoopa!
Can you say scoop?
All right, there you go. All right, everybody. At Brown Balla on Twitter if you want to get in touch with Nick.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Before I go, I will say that I think you guys are doing like an awesome thing at Table One. I think you guys have like by far the best group of regs in Vegas in terms of like game environment. I don't know if they're actually that good at poker, but like game environment is phenomenal. Like, I feel like every time I come out to Vegas, I try to make a point to jump in the mix because I think you guys are doing it right. Like, obviously I get invited to like all the Vegas games or whatever, but I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I think it's awesome, and I would highly recommend anyone going to Vegas to check it out.
All right. Thanks, man.
Appreciate
you, buddy. All right.
All right.
Appreciate
That's
you guys.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money.